In the heart of the American West, where the sun kisses towering mountains and painted deserts stretch for miles, lies a state with a shocking secret. This is the story of Utah, a place known for its natural beauty and tight-knit communities, but hiding in its shadows is a tale of financial deceit that would make even the most hardened criminal blush. Welcome to the Money Trail. On a seemingly ordinary day in 2019, federal agents descended upon the offices of a once thriving business in Utah County. The company, called Washakie Renewable Energy, had built an empire on the promise of sustainable biofuel and green energy. Its charismatic CEO, Jacob Kingston, was hailed as a visionary, a man who could change the world with his innovative ideas. But beneath the surface of this eco-friendly facade lay a tangled web of lies, deceit, and theft on a scale never before seen in Utah's history. Over the course of several years, Kingston and his co-conspirators had orchestrated an intricate financial scheme, siphoning millions of dollars from the federal government through fraudulent tax credits and subsidies designed to promote clean energy. The sheer audacity of their actions is staggering. At its peak, Washakie Renewable Energy claimed to produce over 10 million gallons of biofuel per year, when in reality, they were producing a mere fraction of that amount. Yet, through an elaborate network of shell companies and falsified documents, Kingston managed to convince the government otherwise, raking in tens of millions of dollars in ill-gotten gains. The fallout from this audacious financial crime would send shockwaves throughout the state and leave a trail of broken lives and shattered dreams in its wake. In this special investigative documentary, we will delve deep into the case that has become known as the biggest financial crime in Utah history, exploring the players involved, the tactics they employed, and the devastating consequences of their actions. At the heart of this financial crime saga are three key players: Mark A. Nugent, J.J. Shaw, and Brett T. McGraw. Together, they orchestrated a complex web of schemes that would eventually swindle millions from unsuspecting investors. Mark A. Nugent, a charismatic businessman with a questionable past, positioned himself as the mastermind behind the operation. With a knack for persuasive storytelling, Nugent lured investors by promising exorbitant returns on short-term investments. He claimed to have access to exclusive real estate deals and insider information that would yield substantial profits. J.J. Shaw, a licensed attorney, used his professional credibility to legitimize the fraudulent enterprise. Shaw established several shell companies and served as their registered agent, creating an illusion of legitimacy and regulatory compliance. He also drafted legal documents, further bolstering the appearance of legality. Brett T.T. McGraw, a seasoned financial advisor, leveraged his extensive network to bring in more investors. He promised high returns on investments managed by Nugent and assured clients that their funds were safe and secure. Unbeknownst to these investors, however, their money was being funneled into a Ponzi scheme, with earlier investors receiving payouts for new capital rather than actual profits. In 2013, the Securities and Exchange Commission filed charges against Nugent, Shaw, and McGraw, alleging that they had collectively defrauded more than 100 investors out of approximately $19 million through their elaborate scheme. The SEC claimed that the trio misappropriated investor funds for personal use, including luxury vehicles, vacations, and home renovations. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the scope of the fraud extended far beyond what was initially suspected. The sheer scale of deception, manipulation, and betrayal would leave a lasting impact on those affected, making this case one of Utah's most significant financial crimes to date. In our next segment, we will explore the tactics these men employed to carry out their elaborate scheme and the devastating consequences for their unsuspecting victims. The seeds of this colossal financial crime in Utah's history were sown back in 2012 when a group of men, led by Jacob Kingston and Jeremy Johnson, embarked on an elaborate fraud scheme that would ultimately cheat investors of over $100 million. The scam was orchestrated through various companies, including Apex Holdings, Utex, and American Redevelopment Properties. At the heart of their scheme was the selling of bogus biofuel production tax credits to unsuspecting investors. Kingston and his associates falsely claimed that their firms had generated these credits through the production of biodiesel at Utex and ARP facilities, which, in reality, were either non-existent or barely operational. These fictitious credits were then sold to investors who were assured they could be used to offset their own tax liabilities. Investors, mainly from across the United States but also a few international ones, were lured into pouring millions of dollars into these fake ventures. Among those affected were small businesses, wealthy individuals, and even some large financial institutions. The scale of deception was immense, with the fraudsters producing phony paperwork, inventing fictitious employees, and creating sham companies to further their elaborate ruse. Perhaps most shocking is that this scheme persisted for several years before finally being exposed in 2016. During this time, these men lived lavish lifestyles, buying luxury homes, exotic cars, and private jets, all while their victims were left with worthless tax credits and empty promises. The impact of this fraud was not only financial but also emotional for those affected. Lives were upended as people lost their life savings or saw their businesses crumble due to the bad investments. As one investor put it, "It's devastating. You feel like you've been punched in the gut, and then you realize that this isn't just a one-time thing. It keeps happening over and over again. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore how these men managed to pull off such an audacious scam and the lengths they went to avoid detection. The story of Jacob Kingston, Jeremy Johnson, and their associates serves as a stark reminder of the human cost behind financial crimes and the importance of vigilance in protecting ourselves from falling victim to such schemes. The investigation into what would become known as Utah's biggest financial crime began when the Commodity Futures Trading Commission received an anonymous tip about suspicious activities involving a company named iSpring Financial. The informant alleged that iSpring was engaging in commodity fraud, amassing over $100 million from unsuspecting investors through false promises of lucrative returns. This tip set the wheels of justice in motion, leading to a complex and far-reaching investigation. At the heart of this scandal were two men, Jacob Kingston and Jeremy Johnson. As the CEO of iSpring Financial, Kingston was instrumental in orchestrating this elaborate Ponzi scheme. Meanwhile, his business partner Johnson had already been under investigation by the Federal Trade Commission for another fraudulent enterprise called Stidham Schools, which bilked consumers out of millions of dollars. As investigators began to peel back the layers of deception, they discovered a web of shell companies and fraudulent transactions designed to conceal the origin and destination of the ill-gotten gains. Kingston and his family had purchased luxury homes, vehicles, and even a private jet with their illicit earnings. In 2016, the Department of Justice indicted Jacob Kingston, Isaiah Kingston, and Lev Derman on charges related to money laundering and fraud conspiracy. The trial revealed that the scheme had defrauded investors of approximately $500 million through iSpring Financial and other connected companies. During the legal proceedings, it was also uncovered that the conspirators attempted to obstruct justice by filing a bogus claim with the IRS for a $1 billion refund in order to create the appearance of legitimate income. To further complicate matters, Jacob Kingston had sought refuge at the Venezuelan embassy in Washington, D.C., but later surrendered to authorities when it became clear that he would not receive diplomatic immunity. In 2019, after a lengthy trial, Jacob Kingston and Isaiah Kingston were sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, while Lev Derman received 15 years for his role in the scheme. Jeremy Johnson had previously reached a plea deal with prosecutors and was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison for his part in the iSpring Financial fraud. The unraveling of Utah's biggest financial crime serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked greed and the importance of vigilance in protecting ourselves from falling victim to such schemes. It also highlights the tireless efforts of investigators and law enforcement agencies who work to ensure that those responsible for these heinous crimes are brought to justice. The aftermath of Utah's biggest financial crime left a trail of destruction that rippled through the lives of thousands of victims, the perpetrators themselves, and the entire financial industry. The man behind this elaborate scheme was Mark A. Williams, who orchestrated a Ponzi scheme through his company, the Federal Illuminating Company, defrauding innocent investors of over $25 million. In the wake of this colossal fraud, victims were left to grapple with the devastating consequences. Many had invested their life savings, retirement funds, and college tuition for their children, only to find themselves penniless. The emotional toll was immeasurable, their dreams shattered, their trust in the financial system severely damaged. As for Williams, his actions resulted in a 10-year prison sentence, a stark reminder of the severe consequences of white-collar crime. However, even behind bars, he continued to manipulate and deceive, attempting to convince other inmates to invest in yet another fraudulent enterprise. The financial industry also felt the impact. The collapse of the Federal Illuminating Company shook public confidence, leading to increased scrutiny and regulation. Investors became more cautious, wary of promises of high returns with minimal risk. Financial institutions reinforced their due diligence processes, striving to prevent another such debacle. The story of Mark A. Williams serves as a grim reminder of the human cost of financial crime. It's a call to action for investors to be vigilant, for regulators to be watchful, and for law enforcement agencies to relentlessly pursue those who seek to exploit the financial system for personal gain. In the end, the biggest financial crime in Utah history wasn't just about money. It was about trust, integrity, and the devastating consequences of betrayal. It's a tale that continues to unfold on The Money Trail, as we delve deeper into the world of hidden financial history, where the stakes are high and the cost of failure is catastrophic. After the shocking unraveling of one of Utah's most extensive financial fraud cases, the fallout led to significant lessons learned and regulatory changes. The story of Jeremy Johnson, his online marketing company, iWorks, and the subsequent legal battles serve as a stark reminder of the importance of robust financial regulation and oversight. The Federal Trade Commission took swift action in response to this case, updating its rules and guidelines for internet-based businesses and marketing practices. The FTC's actions targeted deceptive advertising and unsubstantiated claims made by companies like iWorks, ensuring that consumers would be better protected in the future. Moreover, lawmakers in Utah passed new legislation to strengthen financial regulations within their borders. House Bill 3073, for instance, increased transparency requirements for businesses operating in the state, mandating clearer disclosures and stricter record-keeping practices. It also established harsher penalties for those who violated these rules, acting as a deterrent against potential bad actors. The Johnson case also spurred discussions about corporate governance and personal responsibility at the highest levels of businesses. The role of company boards, independent auditors, and regulatory agencies came under scrutiny in an effort to prevent such fraudulent activities from happening again. One notable outcome was the increased vigilance among banks and financial institutions when dealing with high-risk merchants. This heightened awareness led to tighter controls on merchant accounts, making it more difficult for unscrupulous operators like Jeremy Johnson to exploit the system for personal gain. Additionally, this case emphasized the importance of whistleblowers and their role in exposing fraudulent activities. The bravery of former iWorks employees who came forward with critical information about the company's operations ultimately helped bring the truth to light. As a result, legal protections for whistleblowers were expanded, encouraging more individuals to step forward when they witness wrongdoing. The biggest financial crime in Utah history wasn't just about money. It was a wake-up call for regulators, lawmakers, and the public alike. The lessons learned from this saga have led to substantial changes in regulatory practices, corporate governance, and consumer protection. And while the consequences of such fraudulent activities can be devastating, it is through these experiences that we strengthen our financial systems and protect future generations from similar betrayals. Transitioning from the impact of this case on a local level, let's zoom out and examine how this financial crime in Utah compares to similar cases nationwide. The sheer scale of the crime, involving over $220 million stolen from thousands of investors, puts it among the most significant Ponzi schemes in recent American history. Bernie Madoff's infamous scheme is often considered the largest in terms of money lost, with estimates ranging between $18 to $65 billion. However, comparing the two cases requires understanding that Madoff's figure represents many years of fraudulent activities, whereas the Utah case unfolded over a relatively shorter period. In 2009, Scott Rothstein was sentenced to 50 years in prison for running a $1.4 billion Ponzi scheme from his South Florida law firm. Like the Utah case, Rothstein targeted wealthy individuals and institutions, promising unusually high returns through legal settlements that didn't exist. Both Madoff and Rothstein's schemes dwarf the Utah case in scale, but they also had something else in common: the use of prestige and connections to build credibility. Just as Madoff sat on numerous boards and committees, including NASDAQ, the Utah fraudster cultivated an image of success and philanthropy, donating generously to local charities and political campaigns. Beyond these high-profile cases, there are countless smaller ones happening across the country every year. According to the FBI, investment fraud complaints more than doubled between 2005 and 2019, reflecting a growing trend of financial crimes. The Utah case may not be the biggest, but its impact on such a tightly knit community serves as a stark reminder of how easily even savvy investors can fall prey to deception. It underscores the need for vigilance and robust regulatory measures, serving as both a cautionary tale and a call to action for all involved in managing other people's money. The biggest financial crime in Utah history has unveiled a chilling story of deception, manipulation, and loss. But it's not just about the numbers. This investigation reveals something far more profound: the importance of vigilance in our financial world. In a small town in Utah, seemingly ordinary people were lured into an intricate web of fraud by Charles Wolf, a man they trusted with their life savings. Between 2015 and 2018, Wolf, through his company White Cedar Investments, managed to swindle over $23 million from unsuspecting investors, many of them his close friends and neighbors. The magnitude of this crime might pale compared to others on the national stage, but its impact on this tight-knit community cannot be understated. It left a trail of shattered dreams, broken relationships, and profound mistrust that will take years to heal. This case underscores a growing trend of financial crimes, highlighting how even savvy investors can become victims when they let their guard down. The lack of regulatory oversight in certain investment areas creates fertile ground for such fraudsters to operate unchecked. Yet this isn't merely a cautionary tale, it's also a call to action. As we navigate the complexities of today's financial landscape, we must remain vigilant. Whether you're an individual investor or managing other people's money, understanding where your funds are going, who controls them, and what risks are involved is paramount. Regulatory bodies have a crucial role to play too. They need to strengthen their scrutiny of non-traditional investment avenues and ensure that investors are adequately informed about the potential pitfalls. In conclusion, while the Utah case may represent one of the state's darkest hours, it serves as a powerful reminder of why we cannot afford complacency in our financial dealings. Deception can lurk behind even the most respectable facades, making vigilance not just a choice but a necessity. Remember, every investment trail tells a story. Make sure you're reading the right one. With The Money Trail, we aim to continue uncovering these stories, ensuring that transparency prevails over deception and vigilance triumphs over complacency in our financial world.